Hi everyone, so today we'll be working on a box frame. We have done quite a lot of gingerbread lately. This has been on my list for a long time, so I am going to be creating a Western theme frame. So let me just run over quickly. It has been a while. This is an 8x8 20x20 centimetre box frame. Now originally I purchased these from the range, but I think they're now out of stock. You can also purchase these from the Works as an alternative, and also Hobbycraft. So I've already collapsed everything. Let me just get the back just to show you. So you won't need glass for this. So it all comes in parts. So this is your middle, and then that is your back piece. So collapse everything, take out your glass. You might want to save that for another project. We're going to start on the back piece first. Just glue that down, and then we're going to go ahead and paint the frame. So taking your insert, this is just going to give you a guide of where to put, sort of align your print to the top or to the bottom. Because the insert is probably about a centimetre, like say, just you are best running your little pen around the edge. So just align that. Take a pen and just go all the way around. This is just going to give you a guide at the top of where your print needs to sit. You don't have to worry about the edges, and obviously along the bottom as well. So we are going to start on the bottom, so we're going to use that part as our guide next. So the prints I'm going to start with are sort of wooden slats. Now you might be wondering why they are two separate. My Cricut will not cut that in one square. The A4 paper is not large enough once I get the border. So what I've done is I've taken the same print and made a slice for the bottom. So we're going to start on this bottom piece first. I will be using some clear PVA glue. This is a huge, it's going to last a long time. $2.99 from the range. I do tend to stick with PVA glue. It doesn't have to be clear. You've got a lot more play to slide about to get everything in line with your back print. If you use tacky glue, obviously it's a lot thicker to manipulate on the back print. So using my clear PVA glue, or just normal PVA glue, and a paintbrush, I'm just going to start running my PVA glue right the way along that strip. Now if you're not quite sure how far to go up, you can just align that to the bottom. Just make a little mark with your pen. Obviously we're going to PVA the top in a second. That'll just give you a guide of how far to go up with your glue. So my bottom print has now been attached. I've just used this part of our guide that we just drew previously. Sides are not your guide. They will overlap slightly. As long as you've got that bottom piece, that'll be absolutely fine. So the larger print, because it has been sliced from the bottom, you will see which print you need, or what side you need to attach, shall we say, just by joining up these lines here. So that is the right way for me, but let me just flip this way, and you'll see that the lines go out. So just as a guide, don't worry about your side edges. We are now just going to align slat by slat and then glue that into place. So once you've got your top piece on, don't worry so much about, you know, joining absolutely perfectly. Depending how square, it sounds crazy, but this, especially if you've measured the outer part, it might be slightly out. So the majority does get covered, but it's just a guide. You know, try and line it up the best you can with your slats. So you might have a bit of an overrun. So I'm just going to just run my fingers along the top. And then just trim that off with my scissors. Again, you might not get the overrun. It just depends really how square your frame is. So we're now going to pop that to the side. You need your insert. I have found on mine, I've got quite a lot of drag out from some wood, so I'm just going to just make sure everything is smooth before I paint it. So we need that part and the top part. Let me just lift you up again. So now is the time to decide how to paint yours. Obviously I am using the bare wood frame, so I can go in with acrylic paint. If you've just got the white coated frame, you're going to have to sand it before you paint it or use spray paint. Because this is a sort of a Western saloon bar, I do want my frame quite dark. I think it's going to make it really stand out. So I'm going to go in with some raw umber. This again was from the range. I'm going to paint the inner part and the outer part of my frame and then let that dry. So this is what the raw umber looks like. It's only had one coat and I did use my heat gun just to help it along the way. So click everything into place. So just pop that to the side. Now let me grab out my tray. So we are now going to work on the bar and the optics. So this is what I have designed. This is obviously the inserts are cut out. You're going to see in a second. This is going to sit 3D for our little optics to sit into. And then we'll do this bottom part in a second, which is the bottom part of the bar. So this is the exciting part. So before we put everything together, you will now need to grab 5 small lollipop sticks. And then you'll need to paint these in your chosen colour. So whether you go for a lighter brown, a darker brown, it's completely up to you. I will be sticking with raw umber. So let me go ahead now and paint these. All 5 sticks are now painted and dried, top and bottom. We will need to trim off a couple of ends to these, which you're going to see shortly. Whether we need to add a little paint on the ends just to blend everything out, I'm not quite sure just yet. But as long as you've painted these, you've got a very good head start. So we're going to start with 1 smaller lollipop stick. Now you do not need to trim this one off. This is going to be where our little bottles sit. So I have gone a little bit ahead of time. And I've started to stick my stickers on my little bottles. So I have done a moonshine. Just make sure that your stickers are this way along, because obviously on optics they always go downwards. We had to have Jack Daniels as well. We're going to fill these with resin in a second. So these are going to go in the middle part here. I just want to show you these first. Now there is 4 bottles. You will get 2 in this colour. Your other 2 will be random. So again, I have put my stickers upside down. So we've got old rum and vodka on those ones. And then on this one, I'm not quite sure. It was an old-fashioned label. Again, that's gone upright like this. And then again, a little Western whiskey as well. So the aim is to get 2 bottles either side and then your 2 larger ones in the middle. So just before I glue everything onto this stick, I'm just going to use my resin, add some Jack Daniels into here, and moonshine. I'm not quite sure what colour that is, but I'll probably go for a lighter brown. So let me just put this aside a second while I just get the resin out. So these are the only 2 bottles really you need to fill, not unless you've got some smaller bottles and you decide to not use these bottles and go for clear. So this is the UV resin I will be using for my moonshine. I'm going to go in with the garnet, which is the candle liquid dye. It looks quite a dark brown. And then for the Jack Daniels, I'm going to go in with the darkest brown. So I'm going to use this. You don't have to mix it. You can purchase this on Amazon. I'm just going to go in my bottle. Fill that with resin. You won't need a lot. And then do the same with the other bottle as well. Now this won't set until you get your UV torch on, so you've got plenty of time to add your mixture. And then taking a cocktail stick, what I'm going to do now is just drizzle this inside. So the darker one for my Jack Daniels. So this is the same colour we use for the Coke float. And I'm just going to start mixing that inside the resin. Now you will see it might sort of, you know, keep to the top. Can you see? I know my lighting is not great, but I'm going to show you the best I can. Just start mixing that into your resin. Once you've got everything in place, so that was only a little drop. I don't think I need any more. The more liquid dye you add to this, the runnier it will become. That's what I've found over time. So the runnier, I mean, like the colour sort of like bleeds out. So certainly a drop at a time. Just going to drag that up to there. And then you can set that with your torch. So we didn't go in with a lot of colour with this one. So UV torch, again, this was from Amazon. However, if you do acrylic nails, you can pop that underneath your UV torch as well. So as I'm setting these, it's normally about 30 seconds. Just make sure you go in the sort of top part and leave that to set. And then just flip your bottle over and then set it underneath as well. So the aim really is just to get any exposed resin set through your torch like this. So let me just set that. So all in all, it'll probably take about 2 minutes to set. So that is now set. How adorable does that look? That is the absolute perfect colour. So we did add the resin into our little moonshine earlier. Again, that won't be set until you add the torch. So I'm going to go in with the garnet. Sorry. You can obviously purchase these from Amazon. I think it comes in a pack of 12, 14. I really can't remember. My brain is not great. We've spoke about these before. I think they're about $7.99, $8.99, something like that. So again, I'm not quite sure what moonshine is. I guess it is yellowy brown. So I've just dripped that into there. And again, I'm just going to take a cocktail stick, start mixing that in with my resin. So don't be tempted to add some more thinking you haven't got enough, because it's not going down to the bottom. It just takes a while for it to drip down. And once you start manipulating your resin, it will all get covered. I'm then going to do the same method, setting this just like I did with the little Jack Daniels. This is how the resin bottles turned out. So each one had about a minute or so, just tipping it around. Like I say, just make sure that your UV torch or lamp hits where your resin is, just to make it set. So we will add a couple of little tips to these just to finish off the bottles. But before we do that, we just need to mount it onto our smaller lollipop stick. So this is one of 5 that we painted earlier. You will not need to cut this one down. So we are now going to measure up our optics. So this is the print you're going to need. We're just going to place this on the top. Let me just flip this over just to show you. So we're just going to align that roughly. Again, we are not gluing this, just in the centre. Flip that back over. Doesn't have to be in line at all. It's just to give us a guide of where our bottles are going to sit. And then just take a pen and we're just going to mark just where the frame sits. So I don't know if you can see it. So this is my guides. So it might be difficult for you to see. So this is an upright. This is where the optics are going to go. This is an upright. This is where the main Jack Daniels and moonshine are going to sit. This is an upright. This is where the other optics are going to sit. And then this is another upright. So to help you, we can sort of scribble them out, because obviously they're going to go to the back. So just make a little line just to remind you that this part, this part, this part, and the end part, you do not see. So we will be concentrating on 2 smaller bottles in here, 2 larger ones in the middle, and 2 on this side. So you will now need to plug in your glue gun. So I'm going to start with the 2 larger ones. And I'm going to place my glue gun on the back of here. And then just align that in the middle, centralising those onto my stick. So I've centralised the middle ones, so you've gone out of focus, and then use that guide that we've coloured in, attaching a couple of other bottles on either side. So when you put this over the top, because obviously we've done the guide and scribbled them out, that is going to get covered. Obviously it's not going to be flat like this, but just to show you, that is going to get covered with our print. So we now need to make this 3D, just so our little optic sits behind our bar and not flat like this. So we are now going to go back to our other 4 lollipop sticks that we painted earlier and flip this print this way along. Now you can use your glue gun, because obviously you're not going to see the back part of this, because it's going to sit in our frame. So first of all, just run your glue gun. Again, it's your own preference. You might want to use tacky glue. Glue gun is going to be a lot quicker. And we're just going to align this roughly to the top, like this. So let me just flip you this way. So I've taken this sort of dip, excuse my brown painted nails, just along that top part there. And then taking your other 2 lollipop sticks, we are now going to glue gun these along this edge here, like this. Now you might find it easier to flip these flat, measure it up to the top, score your line, and obviously trim those off, because they do need trimming. And then your last stick is going to fit on the inner part of here. So really what we're doing is just creating a square box, just so our optics sit away from our frame. So let me use my glue gun for all of these, and then I'll be back. So this has now all been boxed in. So just pop that to the side. Obviously, and your optics as well, we're just going to finish off these bottom bottles, but just before we do that, I just want to build the counter. So this is the counter print, and you will need 2 small lollipop sticks. These are going to be what we use to bend our counter around to create a 3D shape. As always, just snip off the top of your lollipop sticks to start with. And then first of all, we're going to measure from the top just down to the bottom. We've done this quite a few times before, and snip that off, and obviously do the same with your other stick as well. So let me just trim those off. So I now will be using tacky glue. This is the new one that I'm going to be using from the range for 99 pence. I couldn't get hold of the gold one. It is triple this price, but it just seems to be the same stuff. So we're going to give this a go. So I don't use my glue gun for these sticks, only because once we sort of bend it around, you might get a little lip, you know, where your glue gun sits quite high. So you are best using some tacky glue for that. And a paintbrush, as always, I always go in with a paintbrush. I feel like you've got a lot more control. And your sticks are just going to sit just on that lip there. So tacky glue those into place. And then once they are dry, we're going to bend our cardstock around our sticks. So I'm going to glue these and just let that dry. So these are more or less dry now. So all you'll need to do next is just fold your stick over like this. I've got a tiny bit of trim on the end of my stick, so I'll get that off in a second. And then again, bend this one over. Which will create your little 3D counter. So just to strengthen up the middle, as always, I'm just going to pop a straw, just measure it from this edge to this edge, and just use my tacky glue and just attach a straw in the middle. It just keeps your counter from bending over time. Obviously we've got the top to put on it as well, and I'm just going to trim that little bit of wood while I've got my scissors out. So let me just add my straw, and I've also just used my glue gun once my straw is in place with my tacky glue just on these edges here. It's just going to help it dry a lot more flatter. So tacky glue to the front and to the sides, and then if you want to do the same as what I've done, if you're very impatient and don't want everything to wait, just pop your glue gun just on both ends like this. So it's still a little bit tacky, but we have now created a 3D counter. So I will be using the larger stick for the top, which is going to sit along here. This one is a little bit warped, so I will get another one. So whether you want to trim this down, obviously we're not going to glue this in just yet because I do need to paint this stick first. And again, I'm going to go in with some raw umber. So I'm going to keep it this length for now. And then if I decide to trim it off once I've got it in line in my frame, I can just snip the ends off and then just dab my colour on either side as well. So now is the time to decide where you want your counter. I am going to pop in mine in the middle. However, you might want yours further to the side or this side, depending obviously on what bits and pieces. You might have some larger bits that you want to put in, but I will be centralising mine. So you will see there's a little lip, tiny one at the top and the bottom. So I've just bent that around because obviously if we use our tacky glue on this, it's not going to stick flat to our frame. So just make sure that you flip these little tabs up, just so they're flat. And then what I'm going to do is just centralise that, use my little tabs, and I will be using a glue gun. However, if you are, you know, you have to commit. You know what it's like when you get your glue on there. So if you're, you know, a little bit unsure, just use your stronger tacky glue. Take it on these lips here. You can obviously run it up this part as well, but I'm just going to concentrate just on these corners, because once, you know, that is held into place here with my glue gun, and then we get the top part on, that obviously then makes everything sit flush. So it's completely up to you. Like I say, I'm just going to use the tabs for mine, a little bit of glue gun on each side. However, if you are a little bit unsure with your glue gun, just go in with some stronger tacky glue. So I'm going to keep this on a flat surface. It's going to be a lot easier for me to glue than trying to do it through the camera as always. And then after that has been stuck on, I'm then going to just pop some glue gun on the top of here, run it just along that rim there. Because you've got a lip, you're not going to see the glue underneath, so you don't have to be as neat with that front piece, because once that bit goes on here, you're not going to be able to see it. Just make sure that you don't overspill it too much, otherwise it will all spill out that top. But again, you might want to use your tacky glue. So let me put all that in place. So next we're just going to go back to the optics. Now what I've done is I've just popped my glue gun just inside and then just pushed this down, just to make, you know, obviously if you haven't got your resin right the way up to the top, it just makes that bit flat. And then I'm just going to take some black clay. You don't have to do this method if you don't want to. You can just paint the bottom now black. But this is just the Bose foam clay, which is already coloured in black. Just with my tacky glue, I'm just going to make a little circle. I'll show you quickly and I'll do it off camera. Put my tacky glue on the top of here and then just push that around the bottom part of my bottle. You're always going out of focus. And then I'm just going to make a little sausage. Once that is in place, just roll it backwards and forwards and just create a little sort of spouty thing, should we call it. And then I'm just going to push that in the middle and then shape that once everything is glued down. So just to give you an idea. And then you can pop a little hole in the bottom part of your clay if you want to. So, you know, it's completely up to you if you want to do that or not. I'm just going to have a play about with my black clay and do the same on this one as well. And then we will be ready to glue this onto our back frame. I've just laid you flat for this part. If you don't have any black clay, you can just use white clay if you want to use this method. I did go ahead, just coat it just with some black acrylic paint, just to sort of blend in that little ridge at the top. So that is still drying. So now is the time to decide how far up or down you want to go with your optics. So taking this print, just pop this over the top. I'm going to try and hold it just to flip you up. So if you want your optics further down, further up, I won't be able to move it about. I'm grabbing it with my fingers. As you can see, it's just going to slide about. So depending on how high you want to go, bearing in mind, if you've got some bits and pieces to go onto the counter, you're obviously going to want it further up, especially if you've got the beer bottles and things like that you want to put on. Just give yourself enough gap, just like we've done previously. You know, get your charms out before you glue this bit into place, just to give you a higher counter. You might want to sit it completely flat like this if you're not going to be putting much on your counter. It's completely up to you. Also, just before I glue this in, you might find a little white line where it's come out the Cricut. You can just run your little brush, which I'm going to do later on once everything is glued, just with the paint that I have been using all the way along, just to blend that in. So just have a play about, measure it where you want it, and then once you are happy, just grab yourself a little pen and just make a mark wherever you feel, you know, you can see. So you can just do, I'm not going to do it yet because I haven't aligned it, just around the edges of your stick. So then once you've got your glue gun, it's going to have to be a glue gun because this is quite heavy, right the way along here, then you can just align your two little half moon, should we call them, that you've already done, and then glue that into place. So let me just glue all that in and just have a bit of a measure. So that has now been glued in. Don't worry about any little pen marks either. You will not see those once you get this next piece on. So this piece we will not be using our glue gun. You are best using your stronger tacky glue. That way once it's in place you can obviously slide it about. Just make sure that you have a dry brush. So any paintbrush will do, because once you start sliding it about, what you don't want to do is have all glue along the back. So what I tend to do is once all the tacky glue, I'm going to show you where to pop it in a second, just wipe it off with your brush, and then that will keep any sort of glue overspill away from your print. So your stick, what you might have to do is just bend this just slightly over. So let me just show you from this side, look. So your stick might pop out just slightly. Don't panic, just pop that over the top. So now I'm just going to slide this up and down. I have got a little beer mug that I want to put on my shelf as well. So I'm just going to place that there just as a little guide. And then again, once you are happy, maybe go up a little bit more, maybe here. With the placement, again, just take a pen. You can just mark just the bottom part. Just really, just to help you once you get your tacky glue on. Just give you a little guide. You don't have to go too mad. So I can see my little pen mark just either side. So now using your stronger tacky glue, we're going to go right the way along the edge and the bottom. And then we're going to sit that into place. So that is the hardest part of all the build, you'll be pleased to know. We are now on to decorating. We're going to obviously make some money as well. So again, I've just used a thin brush just with my paint and just run right the way along any white parts that I could see. Because it's obviously all dark wood as well, you don't have to be too neat with your paint if it comes over your print slightly. It all does blend in. So I will discuss lights at the end. I don't have any, however, you know, you can obviously add lights once everything is done. You are best getting everything into place. That way you know, when you use your little Dremel to put your holes in and thread your lights through the back. I won't be able to complete that because, like I say, I need to get some more. So this video will be complete before I add my lights. So the last part of the back piece are these gorgeous little lanterns. Just reminded me of lights. So I've got 2 of these out. Now you can pop these either side of your little counter. Let me just show you what they look like. And then obviously we're going to add some more bits and pieces. So it could go like this. However, I do like these on these side parts. So I can align these just with the middle part of this slat here. Decide where I want those, and then you're going to need a tiny bit of glue gun, because obviously these are quite weighty. If you use your tacky glue, it's going to take forever to dry. So you can just pop a little bit of glue gun just on here and on the base. So you don't have to go anywhere further in, because obviously this is not going to sit. As you can see, it's just these points that sit out. If you end up getting quite a lot of glue overspill, you can obviously, again, just run round with your little brush and your chosen paint and just cover up your glue at the back, if this is, you know, what you want to do. So I'm just going to inline those and attach those with my glue gun. So this is where I place mine. You might want to go, let's say, further down, further up. So just before I start sort of building these sides in, I just want to get all my little cardstocks. So obviously we have some wanted posters. Let me just grab those. Because I'm going to show you, I want them sort of curled round while I've got my paint out. So we have Jessie James, the Wild Bunch, and Billy the Kid. So there's 4 of these, and so far, like I say, I might go back to the drawing board if we need any more. We've got a little cattle print and a rodeo. These are some of the larger prints which I will be putting on the outer side of my frame, and then a top piece as well, which is going to sit up here. So I'm going to start with the smaller prints first. So let me just clear these out the way and then flip you back down. So if you do want to curl your little posters over, you can obviously be really careful as well and go around with your lighter. I'm not going to do that. I really don't want to set fire to it while I'm filming. So I've just taken a little cocktail stick. I'm just going to roll these edges. and then do it on this corner as well. And then do the same with the others. So I might go 4 with this one. I did mention regarding the paint earlier. So once you've got it all folded where you want it, you can then go in with your paint just along the edges of the white that you can see before you glue that into your frame. So let me just curl all these. And then I'm going to go in with my raw umber. Just use my paintbrush. You don't have to do the whole back because obviously you're not going to see that. But it's any bits what you can see that is curled over that you will just need to paint in a darker brown. Just jumping in just to show you how easy they are to paint. Just get yourself some little tweezers. That is going to be so much easier for you to just be able to paint the edges. Using some tissue paper, once I've painted those, I'm just going to lay those flat to dry. So I've just concentrated on the wanted ones to start with. I'm just going to keep the other two aside for now. I might do the same method. I'm not quite sure whether I want those flat, so I'm not going to commit with those just yet. I've just picked these up with my tweezers. As you can see, you don't have to go right the way along the back. It's just the edge. Using a really thin paintbrush. If you don't have a thin paintbrush, you can dip in your acrylic paint just with a cocktail stick. And then again, just drag that around the edge. And then just use your finger to blend that out. So I'm going to use my glue gun for this. You can use those double-sided padded, what you use for scrapbooking. I never remember what they're called, but you know what I mean, the little tiny pads. We've used them previously in some other frames, but I will be just using my glue gun for that. It's just to give you another option. So I'm just going to now glue gun these where I want them, keeping it away from this edge and this sort of edge here. Because I do want to build some other bits and pieces to go in there, so I don't want anything below that. I might keep one just to go on my money that I will be building. However, if I do like these all over and we need an extra little print to go into our money, I will go back to the drawing board and print something else. So I am now going to use my glue gun and attach all these to the back of my frame. So this is where I decided on. I did end up using these flat. If you are wanting flat, you are best using your tacky glue. That way they're not going to stand off your back print. We are certainly getting there. So you will see I've left a gap at the top of either side because I'm not quite sure how far, just pop that back up, my prints are going to go and where to put those. You know, the prints that we discussed earlier. I don't want it covering my light, but I also didn't want it covering any of my little wanted bits and pieces either. So what I'll do is I'll decorate the counter last, as always. Obviously I will stick everything, sort of the larger prints that are going to go around the edge just after I've built these little two corners. So I did mention some hay bales. I'm not quite sure how it's going to go with clay. If it looks terrible, we will come up with another idea. But certainly in one of the corners, I do want to build some money. So we are now going to do that next. So these are the monies, as I call them, what we're going to build. We have a $100 bill, a $5 bill, and a $20 bill. So there is a front and a back to each one of these. And we're going to build a stack. I will build just one, and then obviously you can go ahead using the same method and build the rest. I am not quite sure how many we're going to need. So we're just going to start on these three. Whether it gets repeated or not, I'm not quite sure. My idea is to put these in a little bag, little money bag. So let's see what happens. You will need some smaller lollipop sticks. Now you can obviously, let me rephrase that. I originally was going to do clay inside this little stack, However, these lollipop sticks, just the wooden ones, are the perfect colour. So we don't have to mess about colouring any of the edges. So as I have designed these to go onto your lollipop sticks, these are a perfect fit, so you do not need to trim down any of your print. These will just sit on top of your stick like this. The only thing you will need to do, obviously, is just trim off the top and the bottom. So just before we do that, you will need your glue gun. Depending on how fat you want your little money stack, I'll probably do a couple, just 2 sticks together like this, and then maybe in some more I might do an extra one on top. So just using your glue gun, just attach your sticks together. So I've just stacked 2 for now. Like I say, I'm just going to show you one. How far you go up is completely up to you. You know, you might want it quite thick. If you are obviously layering 2 or 3 over 2, shall we say, you are best cutting these individually, just using your top print as a guide. So I've just snipped that off. These are quite soft sticks. So going through 2 with some sort of pliers like this, just to snip it off, or some larger scissors will be absolutely fine. But like I say, you might want to just pop your print onto the top of your stick, and then just mark that all the way along. Like I say, they're all the same size, so you might want to cut out a few. So once you've got that in place, I will be using my tacky glue to attach this top print. Just use a pen, or like normally what I do is just hold it like this, just pinch it together. But you know, if you're not quite sure, you can just use a pen, just to give you a guide. Just snip it off while I'm holding it like this. So I'm going to use my tacky glue on the top of this little $20 bill stack. It always reminds me of the Goonies. And then I'm going to use my tacky glue and attach the bottom part as well. So just before I go ahead making some larger stacks, this is what it looks like. Do not worry about any of the rough edges. It does add to the little money stack. And then just taking a craft knife, I have broken mine, but it's certainly going to come in handy for this, for me to grip. I'm just going to run my blade just along the wooden parts, just sort of breaking that up. I might end up adding a little band around these, I'm not quite sure. So I'm just going to slice up my wood. And like I said previously, this wood is the perfect colour for our little money stack. So don't even worry if your wood has come over slightly, it will just add to the effect. So once you are happy, obviously you can spend a little bit more time just slicing down, just so it looks like a little bit of a stack. I'm going to go ahead now and build all the rest, and then I'll be back. So I've built my little stacks for now. I'm not quite sure whether we need any more or a little band to go around. I do feel like it's going to cover up that print, so until I get these in the little Hessian bag that I'm going to build next, I am not quite sure. So I'm just going to leave those there for now. This is sort of the Hessian that I'm going to be using. You can find this on sort of a ribbon reel in the range or anything like that. But I did have a little bag. I can't get it all into shot. A little Hessian little bag. So I'm going to cut that to make my little sack. So I've cut myself a little rough square, and I'm just going to fold that. You can obviously get your little sewing machine out, or your little cotton and needle, and just thread that. However, because this is all going to go to the back, I'm not going to bother with that. I'm literally just going to use my glue gun just on this edge here and just fold that over the top. Obviously, I've made it quite long because I'm not quite sure how wide I'm going to need it. So let me just glue that with my glue gun. So this is what it's looking like so far. Good old Lidl. So I'm just going to, let me just flip you up a little bit. Just pop that in here, just to give me the height. Obviously I want my monies coming out the top, but I also want to tie it round just a little bit, just sort of to pull the bag. So I'm just going to snip that off along the top. So you can obviously run your glue gun around the bottom and attach a cardboard base. Again, I am not quite sure whether I'm going to need that. I might just glue that in the bottom like this. But I certainly will need a little top to go inside here for my monies to come out of the top. So to do that, what I'm going to do is just cut myself a little cardboard circle and then just glue that on the inner part of my Hessian bag, giving me a little lip at the top just so I can squeeze that in as a little sack like this. So let me just cut that and glue that in. Again, I will be using my glue gun. So this is what I have done so far. Just added my cardboard little circle, used my glue gun, been quite messy with it, used my finger just to push that inside. And then if you have worked with Hessian before, you'll know it's obviously been weaved. So you can pull out the little strings from the bag. I'm just going to fray that out. Taking my cardstock, just pushing that along the edge like this. So again, I haven't popped the base on. I don't think, like I said previously, I'm going to need it. So I'm now going to start using my glue gun, attaching all my monies inside to spill out the top. This is what it's looking like so far. So I added all my monies. Just use some craft wire. It didn't really need gripping because obviously we had the cardstock inside. I added some single notes as well, just to fill it out a little bit more. And then some to the sides as well. And then with my permanent marker, I just drew a little dollar sign. This is as far as I've got. So I've added my 3 larger signs to the top and the corner using my tacky glue. The little bottles at the front was part of the little plastic glasses that I know the majority of you do have, the little set that we do. And I've just, as you can see, it's still a little bit wet, just attached some little tissue, which I've cut into random little squares, filled my glasses up with resin. There is a tutorial on how what resin I use and colours. You can obviously use paint or your liquid. I did use a couple of drops of paint in mine and attach those to the front of the bar. So I did go back to the drawing board. I did feel like we needed some saloon doors. So if you've had your bar up one way, you might want your saloon doors together. However, I have built this for the design that I have done. So we've got a saloon door going either side. So these are the Saloon doors. They are double-sided because obviously I didn't want one to paint the whole thing and it'll all sort of crinkle over because it's only on cardstock. So I've doubled that print over. So you'll just need to fold just down the centre, just lining everything up. And then your other one, it's got a slightly different print on it. And again, fold that over. So your little metal clasps, these are the front parts of your door. So once you have folded that, just get yourself 2 small lollipop sticks. I haven't trimmed that one off, I didn't need to. And just measure just on your score line or your folded line, just so your little stick doesn't come over the top. So we want one that side and then one on here. And then you will need to attach those with your tacky glue. And again, repeat the same process with your other one. Once your sticks are in place, as you put that just on the bend, just make sure that you can still align that. It'll just give you a bit of a guide of how far you need to push up that stick, especially in the corner. So now taking your tacky glue, we're going to now shut the doors up just by spreading our tacky glue all the way along and aligning our doors together. We have now strengthened up our little doors, so there will be a little gap going all the way around, which we will be filling in with some paint in a second. So where the outer parts of your sticks are, so you can have your doors this way on, depending on what print you want where, or you can flip it this way, which I think that is the way I'm going to do it. And then just finding that stick that we've just put in this part here. Just get something flat like a ruler or anything like that. Just find that lollipop stick. And then just bend that around. So just be gentle. Obviously you might want to wait for your glue to dry. Mine is still wet. That's just going to form the little bracket, just so I can sit that onto my frame and obviously strengthen up that piece for it to sit a lot better. Going in with some raw umber, which is the colour I have used throughout the whole build. I'm now just going to start popping that inside the white, just with a paintbrush, just covering everything up. So obviously you might get a little bit of overspill. You can just blend that out with your finger if you want to, or just wipe it off. Say I don't want to be too neat with it. I think it's going to add to the effect. So any sort of overspill like this, I'm just going to take my finger and just wipe that out. I'm then going to work all the way down this edge and underneath, just blending out all that colour, and then do the same with my other door. Both of my doors are now dry, and I'm just going to just run some acrylic paint just along my hat, maybe just along the rim, just to sort of make it not look so brown. You can obviously add a little detailing as well around, which I might do. I am not quite sure. I have been toying with the idea all the way through this build whether to add some little hay bales. I've had a play about with some prints, with some clay. It just does not look right. So if you are wanting to build some hay bales, it is completely up to you. I think it's because it's quite a small area. The hay bales don't look very long. They look rather square and it didn't fit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to coat my little hat, maybe add a little trim, add my doors to the side of my frame, so I'll explain that when I've done that. And I've also got this little print as well, which I'm going to put just on that edge there. So I'm just going to go ahead, check all my frame, anything that I can see any white exposed, which I don't like. I'm going to just go in with some raw umber again, just top up any areas, glue my doors on, decorate my hat, and then I'll be back with the finished result. Just before I show you the finished result, I have been tying some some string for my little rope. So I just want to cover this just before I show you everything else that I have been doing. So just loop this around your finger a few times. And then taking the ends, we're going to thread that underneath the loop. And then thread that between that loop that we have just created. If I can do it through the camera, I'm going to try. And then you can do the same on the other side. So again, just loop that around your other loops. And then thread that into that little loop. And then just pull that down. That'll just keep everything together. And then you can snip off any excess with your scissors, because I'm going to hang these on my little saloon doors. I am now back with the finished result. I absolutely love how this turned out, so I'm going to explain what I've done. So to start with, I use my glue gun along the sticks that we strengthened up our little doors with. So I've aligned that just to the top part of this frame, and then just added a little bit more wood just so it looks like more of a door frame. So that is completely up to you. It looks fine without, but like I say, I just wanted to show you that part. So I've done the same on this corner as well. These are smaller lollipop sticks, but like I say, you don't have to do that. I've gone all the way around my edges with my paint, and on this side as well, just blending everything out. So let's start with the paint first. Just drag my paint along the edges, blending it out with my finger along this sign and this sign, and added the little rope that we did on the previous step, just attaching that with my glue gun to the back. And staying with the same raw umber, I again just dry brushed my monies, as I call it, just along the edges, just to make it look a little bit older. Decided to put some more at the back of here, so these are just little single notes, and again just dry brushed over the top while I didn't have much paint on, just to sort of blend that out. I felt like it needed something else along that counter. The hat, again, just run your brush around using your finger just to sort of spread it out. Let me just move you forward so you can see this. And then once that was dry, just run some tacky glue around the edge and use the same little string or rope just around that edge there. And then again, just went in with some raw umber. I do feel like that colour is perfect, especially for this frame. So I did mention at the beginning of this video, if you're wanting to add lights, you will need a little Dremel and a little drilly tool, I call it, really thin one. Get yourself some wired lights in warm, preferably, and then what you can do is from the back part of your frame is just drill. So if I was to add some lights to here, I think I'm going to do eventually. Like I said, I don't have any to hand, otherwise I would have put those in. Just measure from the back part and just drill a couple of little holes just on the top part going into the back. The little holes will not come out of this print here. It's going to sit, because obviously we've got the lip, so your lights will sit underneath these parts here. If you are wanting to add some light to the back of these as well, you can again just drill a tiny little hole just behind these lights. I'm not quite sure how they're going to light up, so don't quote me on that. However, I know the light will light up this area here. So you can then thread all your lights through your little holes that you've done. Attach your wire to the back with your glue gun or some double-sided tape, and then just take your battery pack, just drop it down. Obviously you've got a lip on this inner part of your frame where your battery pack will sit. So I will be doing that eventually once I've got some lights. So I just needed to cover that as well. So this is the finished result. It is adorable, as always. I really hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and I cannot wait to see your designs, and I will see you all soon. Goodbye, everybody.